faces, worn out places, worn out faces, bright and early for their daily races, going nowhere, going nowhere. Their tears are filling up their glasses, no expression, no expression. Hide my head, I wanna drown my sorrow. No tomorrow, no tomorrow. And I find it kinda funny, I find it kinda sad. The dreams in which I'm dying are the best I've ever had. I find it hard to tell you, I find it hard to take. When people run in circles, it's a very, very mad world.
In 50 years, world demographics will have changed dramatically. Africa will increase from 12% of the world's population to 20%, while Europe is expected to decline from 12% to 7%. Africa's population is expected to be 1.8 billion, Asia's 5.2 billion, Latin America 800 million, and North America and Europe combined 1.2 billion. Overall, the areas that constitute the developed world will represent 12% of global population, down from 17% currently. Without investment into emerging markets, economic development will be hindered, and an estimated 23% of the developing world will be impoverished, compared to 33% today. This will mean that approximately 2.1 billion people will be in poverty in 50 years, a drastic increase from today's count of 1.4 billion. However, if access to capital increases, the current rate of growth in the developing world will continue to accelerate, and there will be a significant reduction in global poverty.
In developing countries, every industry is held short of their potential due to a lack of financing. Many not due to a lack of capital, but instead unpredictable cash flows. Because there isn't an established banking system, people are forced to dangerously keep their savings under their mattresses or invest in illiquid assets like goats, which cannot be used to fulfill short-term cash needs. This is a disincentive for innovation as excess returns have limited use and ultimately leads to transitory poverty, 68% of global poverty. Since the majority of capital is invested in illiquid assets, the highly inefficient barter system is the primary form of trade. As a result, entrepreneurship and small business, a necessary foundation for economic, political, and social development, is seriously hindered. One particular industry that is held back is agriculture, on which 82% of rural sub-Saharan Africa is dependent. In fact, approximately 75% of total employment in East Africa is in agriculture. Due to the lack of industrialization and innovation, Africa's output levels remain relatively stable, as investment in fertilizers and machinery are kept to a minimum. With greater access to capital, entrepreneurs would be given a means for advancement.
One way to achieve the first Millennium Development Goal by providing employment is through entrepreneurism and microfinancing.
So in order to break the cycle of poverty, you often need access to a loan. And in the developing world, if you're living on less than $2 a day, it's very difficult for you to get a loan because you have no collateral, you have no credit history. And so microfinance is the provision of these small loans to the poor in the developing world.
It was giving the poor something that we take for granted and have been reluctant to give in the past. Credit and access to financial capital will allow the poor to start small businesses or grow those that they already have. Organizations from Bolivia to Bangladesh began making small microloans, usually between $50 and $150. The recipient would use the loan as capital for a small business and pay it back at a competitive interest rate. Not only did these borrowers grow their businesses and increase their incomes, but they repaid their loans on time, with repayment rates of 95%, above those of traditional banks.
The progress that has been made toward the summit's original goals set back in 1997 of reaching 100 million of the world's poorest families with credit for self-employment and other financial and business services is really quite remarkable. 82 million of the poorest families have been reached. 113 million total clients were reached last year with a microloan. And I know the summit estimates that the original goal of reaching 100 million of the world's poorest families will be attained by the end of this year.
Incentives. We can certainly see a world in 2030 where poverty, at least, is not the issue that it is today.